Well, this has snowballed quite dramatically. Oh hey, welcome back to the Quick Speed Shop. Today I'm putting rear brakes on my 1995 Ford old body style F250. It's got the great big 12 by what, 2.5 or so drums on it, and I've driven this truck about 20,000 miles. I put new drums on it when I started driving it about 20,000 miles ago. The rear brakes were okay then, but now they're about shot, so we're going to pull this thing apart and take a look. So here we go. First step obviously is to pull the drum off. I had a little bit of trouble getting it going. I used my pry bar to start. It feels like there's a little bit of a lip on the inside of the edge of the drum, and I was able to back the star wheel off. I'll show you that in a second, and get the pads, or the shoes to pull in a little bit so I can get the drum off. So let's go ahead and get this off the rest of the way. Come off there. Uh-oh. Yikes. Look at this. We got parts already. Looks like the adjuster cable is broken. And oh, that must be the spring for the adjuster, ground right down to nothing. So I already got parts falling out. That's a bad sign. These are my new drums I put on about 20,000 miles ago. Ooh, they're a little wavy, not too bad. You can see here, I think where that cable is dragging, there's a shiny spot inside the drum. And there's a little bit of a rusted lip because the shoes fit inside the drum here. I'm gonna have to address this. I can just take my angle grinder and grind this lip off that's rusted. That way I can slip the drums back on without fighting with the shoes. So I'll do that when we put it back together. But you got your standard 3/4/1 ton drum brakes here. These, let me get a measuring device here. These are 3. Okay, so these are the 12 by 3 drums and shoes. I believe they come in 12 by 2.5 and 12 by 3. These are the 3-inch, the big ones, the wide shoes here. So hold on a minute. Yes, I got my new shoes. Those are also 3, so that's a good step. So as you can see, these are worn down quite a bit. Look at that. These are looks like they're bonded shoes, and they are right down to almost touching this one here. We only got a few thousandths left. So these brakes are definitely shot, and then we had the adjuster cable break and all that, so they weren't even getting adjusted correctly. They stopped self-adjusting. So I'm going to go ahead and tear these apart. We got some springs. We got our bracket here for our emergency brake. We got to release that, and then take some springs apart, and these shoes will come right off here. Looks like the wheel cylinder is just dusty, not really leaking at all. I don't see any other big problems. I have a new hardware kit with new springs to go in here and a new cable. Okay, the first step, I think I'm going to take the adjuster off the bottom here. This is the star wheel that adjusts the shoes. It's down here on the bottom. I'm turning up my hand to back the pressure off. Alright, so here is your self-adjuster. It's got this end here that goes into the shoe, and then another end that pushes on the other shoe here. And you see this, you turn it and it goes in and out. I'll take a wire wheel and I'll clean this all up, and I'll put some anti-seize or grease on the threads. But this basically self-adjusts with the star wheel and a bracket that keeps it from turning, and it keeps the tension on your brakes. So with that released, you can go ahead and remove our front shoe. There's a little keeper piece here with a spring, and I've got some vice grips to release that. And there's an upper spring here that looks like it spans both shoes, and these are pretty stiff because this is the big brakes. Usually when you work on smaller cars and stuff, the springs aren't too bad. These, I bet, are going to be pretty stiff, so I'm going to try to use some vice grips, see if I can get these apart without having them fly everywhere. Let's see what we can do here. Okay, I'm just kind of twisting on the spring to take the tension off it. I can get it out of the keeper. Almost there. Come on, there we go. Whew. Alright. That's your little short retainer spring there. I'll set that on one side. This pin that holds that Goes through the backing plate. It looks like a bent nail. Now I'm going to try to get the upper spring off here. The wind apparently is picking up. That's great. Wonder if I can. This is going to be fun, I bet. That's okay. Now I see I leveraged the vice grip against the hub here, and that gave me some grip to get that spring loose. Now when we remove our front shoe, yeah, that was right down to nothing. About ready. Ooh, look at the inside. Rusty and cracked there. Yeah, these are definitely done. Okay, move that spring. Now the shoe will come free here. Remove our upper spring on this side. Okay, to get the emergency brake off here, there's a little nut on the inside. Okay, the nut on the back of this is 7/16, and now I can remove the pin that holds all our pivot action here. We got our cable on the inside, and then there's the adjuster piece for that. The cable looks like it might be wedged on. No, that's the thing. Let's see. It's bound up there. Once I get the cable off, I can put the new cable on. I'm going to grease up this pivot action here with some wheel bearing grease probably, and then clean this up. There's some schmooey here, brake dust and nonsense. So I'll clean this up with some brake clean, and then we'll reassemble this, pull a little grease on everything. Okay, I've gone and replaced my cable. Now just so you know, when you got to drive the bolt out of this, and then there's a little bushing inside here that holds the cable together. You got to tap it from the outside, of the emergency brake. Got to tap it through and then allow all this to come apart. But I got the new cable on here. I took some wheel bearing grease and I greased everything up. I greased up the pivot point here. I've got to rehook my emergency brake cable down here below just by sticking it in the hole and reattaching the cable. Get in there. Alright, now I can bring this up around with the new cable, push it through. The bolt has a little like dimpled area, so you got to drive it back into the backing plate. There we go, that is reinstalled. I can put the nut back on the back. Alright, now you can see before this was all seized right up. Now it's got grease on it, and it's got a little bit of big wiggle room. There's a spring underneath this washer that helps hold the tension on here. So everything is freed up now. The emergency brake can work good again. We got our adjuster cable, which will go down here. Okay, I got the new shoes out here. These are actually bought Motorcraft BR100 1X was the number. And these are Motorcraft replacement shoes. Now you're going to want to pay attention. These shoes are handed. See here, there's this welded on pad here. That goes on the outside. Okay, I just double checked to make sure, yeah, that welded on pad wants to be on the outside, so they go on with the pad on the outside. That way the shoe fits in there correctly. So I'm going to go ahead and put the rear shoe on first. I've got to get my before I put that on, I've got to transfer over the cable bracket up here, which just presses in, and then down here there's a pin in the shoe and you just stick this piece on. So what you got to do is take the spring off here, a little clock spring, release the tension on that, and you can roll this out of the way. Take that off, and you can take your, you should get a new spring in your hardware kit, I would imagine. Let's look. Maybe not. What we got here? Do not see a new spring for that in the hardware kit. So we'll have to reuse our spring. Take that off. Just put it right. It's a little crunchy. Right onto the new shoe, like so. And then this will go right back on here. Get on there. All now. Like that. Rehook our spring. There we go, and that's what the adjuster cable hooks into there. Like that. Also, oh, you gotta bend the tab. You gotta bend the tabs on the back of this piece to get it off and hammer it around on the new one. Release these. I use a vice grip to squeeze that, and I'll just, while it's held in place, I will use the hammer and just tap them back over. Okay, I've taken my new spring holder there and hung it up in there. I'll take a new spring, stick it through here, like that. I'm going to go ahead and hook the cable on. Assume it goes on here. I don't know because it was off when I got there, but that seems like a good hooking point. No, that doesn't seem right. Earth. Yeah. All right. So now I hook our cable up over the retainer. We'll fight on this, and everything's a struggle. Okay, that's in there, and that was a struggle and a half right there. Now I can take my spring, which has fallen out, and put that in there. Might be hard to see what I'm doing, but we're just putting it back together, the opposite of what we had coming apart. Now the hard part's going to be hooking this red spring up to the retainer. Okay, I'm going to show you a trick that saved me in the long run here. To get these red springs on to hold the shoes, you got to make some kind of tool. I'm sure there's a brake tool. I don't have one. So I took an old broken screwdriver and I ground a notch in the end of it there, and I was able to push on the spring enough to roll it in to hook this on. I can tell you that the rear shoe was a real bear with emergency brake in the way. It took me about 20 minutes just to get the spring hooked on. These springs are really stiff, and it's a fight. And I'm glad I did it off camera because it wasn't pretty, but I got it on there. Push right here, push really hard, clock the spring around, and you can hook these on here. So all this is installed now. I hooked the red spring up across the top. That's on there. Now the last thing I do is install the adjuster right here, which I took on a wire wheel. I wire wheeled the threads. I ran them up and in there. I put some grease inside this and put some new grease on there. So this goes down below. I'll show you once I get it installed. Down here, it fits on the shoe like this and the shoe back in here. And this piece here is your adjuster bracket. that pulls on the wheel and keeps the wheel from adjusting, and it only allows it to turn one way. Well, it's supposed to allow it to turn one way. So I'm going to run these brakes out a little bit, and this is supposed to grab. Why is it not grabbing? Now we'll adjust the brakes up. I went and took my grinder and I ground out the lip where this had some rust build up on the thing, on the edge of the drum. I'm just going to go ahead and get some handprints on here, so let me spray off the brake shoe real fast. Both sides. Alright. Now, we can take our drum. And we're going to want to adjust the star wheel until there's a little bit of drag. I like to work the shoes like that back and forth just to get them dialed in. You see how loose? I need to tighten the star up a little bit by pushing the shoes out. Okay, that's too far. I can't get the brake on. Go about halfway back. Okay. I got my drum on all the way now. I've got the star wheel set pretty much so I can get the drum on here, and it seems like it's pretty good. But I'm going to jack both back wheels up and I'll spin the wheel and I'll be able to feel the resistance. And you can take a screwdriver through the back of the backing plate and you can reach the back of that star wheel and you just click it, and you can adjust it out until you get the amount of drag you want. Right now I've got the other wheel on the ground, so it's not allowing me to spin the axle, but I will jack the other side up and I'll put the wheel on. I'll spin it until I start to feel some resistance, and that'll be a good set for the brakes. Why'd you guys let me steer you wrong there? I put the brakes together wrong. Okay, let's go back. This is how the emergency brake, or I mean, sorry, the tensioner cable goes. The purple spring goes over the hook there on the lower, this little bracket here, which puts the adjuster right at the proper height. It was up in the air too far and I didn't understand why. I had to figure that out. So that the spring goes over the hook, and that's how that rides. And you guys also let me forget to put the lower spring on there. I had to go back and take the brakes take the drums off, take the wheels off, and put the lower spring on because I got to the other side and realized I forgot to put that on there. So now the brakes are complete and it works good. The adjuster wheel bracket piece is right in where it's supposed to be. The spring's on. Shoes are all good. So now I can go ahead and put my drum on and readjust my spider wheel. I'm sorry, star wheel, not spider wheel. My star wheel to get the proper tension on the shoes, and then I can finish working on the other side. But this is the proper way to put the lower piece on the cable bracket. The purple spring goes around the hook, and that hangs like that, and then the long, skinny spring goes on the bottom. So now we've got it, and it should be good. So I've just done this out in my driveway. It's pretty... with simple hand tools, pry bar, special ground screwdriver, another screwdriver, some vice grips, 7/16 nut to get the adjuster off, hardware kit, cable kit, and a set of shoes. And I put all brand new brakes on the back of my F250 here. You can do it too in the driveway or the shop. It's a decent day out today, so I'm outside, but it's not too bad. I suggest you make one of these tools to push some springs on. That's probably about the only way to get them on, unless you have an actual brake tool for these. But it wasn't too bad here. It's taken me about, I'd say, less than an hour to do this side with making the tool and fighting with the spring and stuff, and changing the cable over on the emergency brake. So it's not too bad of a job. It went went together pretty good. So I'll do the other side of the truck, and then I'll just adjust my tension, and my brakes will be good to go for another 30, 40, 50,000 miles on my F250, and as you can see, it needed it. They were junk. So thanks for watching. Old body style content here at the Quick Speed Shop. I also do hot rods, all kinds of other stuff, Jeeps, hot rods, F250 old body style. I'm working on a 37 Ford right now, so if you want to check out some other videos, I appreciate it. Appreciate if you subscribe, and I'll be back here later with another video. Bam, at the Quick Speed Shop. I'm a professional. Don't try this at home.